Morning, good morning, students. As you all know, that the lockdown have further extended till 30th April, and the school will remain closed till 10th June. So, keeping these things in mind, we have already started online classes for you all, and we hope to benefit the students through the classes. So, my dear students, today we are going to start a new chapter from geography that deals with water resources. We will start this chapter by the saying, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. This means that when you are within the ocean, you have water everywhere, but you cannot drink that water. So, students, when you look at the world scenario, three-fourths of the world is covered with water and only one-fourth is land. That means when you look at the world map, you can see that 70% of the world is covered with water and only the 30% is covered by land. So out of that, so to make you all clear, if we will take that 70% as 100%, so out of that 100%, 76.5% of water lies within the ocean, and out of that only 22.5% we get as fresh water, and from this 2.5% also 70% of fresh water are trapped in ice caps, and only the 30% of water are underneath the ground, that is we can say groundwater. This water is only water that we can use. So next point is that India gets 40% of global rain and ranks 133rd in water availability per person per annum. So however, India is trying to improve the ranking by various other water harvesting technique that we are going to discuss later on. So total renewable water resources of India are estimated at 1,897 square kilometer per annum. So, moving on, in the next part we will discuss about why there is water scarcity in the world, as we have 70% of water covered by 70% of world covered by water. So, so number two is excessive use of water. Excessive use of water in industrialization and urbanization for agricultural purposes. What there is due to increase in the population, the demand of water is increasing, and there is excessive use of water in various sectors. So you have so because of this also what happens, this water are overexploited by the people. So you have groundwater pump that has established that exerts groundwater, creating graze hole in the most of the areas. So most of the region like Punjab, Haryana areas are graze hole areas. That means graze hole means that the groundwater table has been gone down. So why there is such a situation? That means the water table areas have gone deep, so you have water scarcity. You have water scarcity not only in the area where there is rainfall deposit, but also in the areas you have abundant rainfall is mainly and predominantly due to human intervention. So all this excessive over exploitation of water and excessive use of water is only due to human intervention. So you have large population, since people is using more water, and the demand of water is more, so there is more use in domestic and agricultural activities also, and all these activities uh, accumulates for the scarcity of water even in the water abundant area. So because of all these reasons, so where in those areas where water is available in abundant, in those areas also what happens, due to all these things, the problem of water scarcity arises. So the next point which explains why there is water scarcity in the world is water stress. Water stress. Now, according to the Falkenmark, a Swedish expert, water stress occurs when water availability is between 1000 and 1600 cubic meter per person per year. Now, when that kind of situation come, the water stress may occur, which can lead to water scarcity in the world. So this was said by one of the pioneer, the Falcon Mac, who have calculated that if we come under this situation, then there will be a water scarcity in the world. And he also said by 2025, 2 billion people will be without water. Now, moving on this chapter, we came to the most important point, that is managing the water resources. So, by doing this only, we can conserve the water resources, and so that there will not be a problem of water scarcity in the near future. So to cope up with the water scarcity, different ways of conserving and managing water in the ancient times and the multi-purpose river project in the modern times have come up. So now in the modern times, now the people have came up with the multi-purpose river valley project, which will help to cope up with the problem of water scarcity in many ways. So multi-purpose river projects launched after independence. So after independence, this project has been launched aiming to develop the proper management of water resources by storing river water for many purposes. So first, Prime Minister Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru proclaimed multi-purpose river project as temple of modern India. So our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had proclaimed this multi-purpose river valley project as the temple of modern India as they initiate development of. So why he had said this? Because it not only deals with in storing a water, but this multi-purpose river valley project helps in many ways, the water which has stored in the dams will help in agriculture purposes, in for the for the industrial purposes, and for the growth of urban economy, and so many other things that we are going to discuss now. Now, multi-purpose projects or dams as a temple of modern India. So, what are the objectives of multi-purpose project? So, basic idea is to store water. So, the basic idea behind this is to store water. That water would be used to irrigate the field. Besides irrigation, we would be used it can be used for the hydroelectric power generation, water supply to the nearby areas, flood control. By penalizing the excessive water, this area would act as the areas of recreation. It would provide inland navigations and fish breeding purposes also. So these are the main objectives of the multi-purpose river valley projects. Number one is for generation of electric power, and number two is for soil conservation. So soil conservation, if you make a dam, to it will if what happens, this project will conserve soil, slowing down the speed of river water. So if the speed of the river water slows down, what happens? The water will not erode the soil. So this is how the soil is conserved. And flood control. So the main purpose behind this is to control flood. Uh, flood. And next is for irrigational purposes also. During the dry season, if the water is stored in the dams, what happens, the farmers can use this water for the irrigation purposes in the field. Next is afforestation. Trees are systematically planted around the reservoir, and it also act as a recreation areas, and it is also used for fish breeding, and this is why it is known as multi-purpose river valley project, because it has been built for so many purposes, so many work. Since you are creating a dam in a naturally flowing river, so what are the adverse effect and the limitation of these dams? Number one is environmental impact. A variety of flora and fauna as well as human settlement get submerged or displaced by water of the reservoir formed by a dam. Therefore, dams face many protests which are also supported by NGO. Such protests are Narmada Bachao Andolan. So these are the protests to protect a forest and a wildlife that has been displaced or that has been cut off due to establish a dam in the area. So this Narmada Bachao Andolan are such an Andolan where the local people have revolted against against the creation of the dam. So number two is effect on soil fertility. Annual flood used to renew the soil. So what happens, the annually the flood, what happens, usually renews the soil due to flood, but by creating the dam, what happens, we are stopping the flood to occur. And due to this, what happens, what happens, there will be a reduction in the floods. What happens, uh, there will be reduced in the fertility of the soil and increased salinity. The reservoir that also creates no on the floodplains also submerge the existing vegetation and soil, leading to the decomposition over the period of time. So number three is impact on society. So what are the impact on society that a dam and a multi-purpose river valley project have? Large river projects cause large scale displacement of the local community. So creation of the large dams requires a large area, so which also affect nearby local communities, along with the destruction of their livelihood and culture. Poor farmers suffers as their agricultural land is taken away to build a dam. This causes a social gap between the rich landowners and the poor landowner, which have to depend on the rich owners, and they will be humiliated by the rich owners of the land. So these are the negative impact on the society for the creation of the dam. And number fourth is impact on aquatic life. So what happens if you create a dam uh, in the river? What happens, what negative impact will be there in aquatic life is that uh, fish in a reservoir of the dam do not get sufficient nutrient materials as they get in the natural surrounding of a natural surrounding or a surrounding. Also, they cannot migrate beyond the dam for spawning, and they don't allow they don't do not migrate. Okay, because due to the dam creation of dam, the obstruction is already created. So due to that, what happens, the fish will not get a chance to migrate for their spawning. Okay. And next is change in cropping pattern. So the farmers are getting huge amount of water from the dams, and they don't have to depend on the rainfall. So because of that reason, what happens, the the farmer have already starting growing unseasonal crops and plants due because they will get a sufficient water from the cropping pattern. So due to that, what happens, the fertility of the soil will get decreased. due to by growing the unseasonal plants and crops. Okay, and next is territorial water dispute. So what happens? Territorial water dispute means a dispute between the people. So due to the so most of the dams are actually created in the borders of in between the borders of two states or between the border of two countries. So due to that, what happens? The, there will be a dispute between the states and the countries for to use the water resources. So, for example, Koyna Dam, built on the Krishna River in Maharashtra, reduces the water supply in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Because of this, what happens? The dispute will arise between the states and the countries. So, and now last one is excessive sedimentation at the bottom of the reservoir. So as you are obstructing a naturally flowing rivers, what happens? The regulation of rivers affect their natural flow, causing poor sediment flow and the excessive collection of sediment at the bottom of the reservoir. So there will be a collection of sediments at the bottom of the reservoir, resulting in the rockier streams, beds and raised level of water. So due to the excessive collection of sediments in the bottom of the reservoir, what happens? The level of the water will the level of the water in the reservoir will raise, causing floods. And for example, the release of water from the dams during the heavy rains aggravate the flood situation in Maharashtra and Gujarat, which is the huge loss of life and property, causing huge loss of life and property out there. So these are the limitation and these are the effects, negative effects of the multipurpose river valley project that you have to keep in mind. So here are some of the major river projects that you have to point out in the uh, map. You can go through by yourself and you can practice at home. So this is your homework. You have to point out all these things in the map, okay, in the India map, so which is very important. Students, now we move on to the next point, that is rainwater harvesting. So rainwater harvesting is the accumulation and storage of rainwater for reuse before it's run up. So it is usually means that rainwater harvesting is is to store water during the rainy season for the future use. Uses include water for gardening, livestock, irrigation, etc. This is an alternative system of dealing with water shortage. So in the area where we have a water problem, we use this type of rainwater harvesting system for the use of water in the future, so that there will be no scarcity of water in the future. So rainwater harvesting methods in India. So there are so many rainwater harvesting methods in India, and number one is khadins and johars. So it is usually practiced in the regions of Rajasthan, uh, in which the agriculture fields are converted into rainfed storage structure that allow the water stand and moisten the soil. So number two is rooftop rainwater harvesting. People living in the arid regions of Rajasthan and Gujarat, where rainfall is scanty, have found ways to store rainwater falling on the rooftop. So in this region, the people usually make water reservoir, water tanks in the roof of the houses, and they store they store water during the rainy season in these tanks and reservoir for the future use. And likewise, and beside the roof rainwater harvesting, there are so many other technique also that with a different name, same method with a different name in the different states of India. So all these things you can go through by yourself only. So I'll not be going to explain out here. So you can go through this by yourself. It's very simple. So moving on, we'll go to the next important point, that is advantage of rainwater harvesting. So rainwater harvesting has many advantages, like it is considered as the purest form of natural water and a major source of drinking water. So rainwater is considered as the purest form so of natural water and a major source of drinking water also. So this water can be used for agriculture purposes also and other so many domestic purposes also. Number 3 is water is stored under the ground in tanks help in cooling basement rooms in the hot summer. That means in the places like Rajasthan, what happens, these techniques are usually practiced out there. So keeping the water in the roof, what happens, it it helps in cooling the basement rooms during the hot summer season. So it helps in meeting our growing water needs. So it also helps in meeting our growing water needs, so that in the future there will be no water scarcity, no more water scarcity. So in many parts of the rural and the urban India, rainwater harvesting successfully adapted to store and conserve water. So this method is usually for to store water and conserve water for the future use. For example, Gen Gendathur village in Karnataka receives an annual precipitation of 1000 millimeter. Every house has installed rooftop rainwater harvest system and can collect and use about 50,000 liters of water annually. Okay. So with this we have covered the chapter, that is chapter number 3 of geography. We have covered the whole chapter, that is water resources. So moving, and lastly, as a home assignment, I want you all to do and solve all answer the questions and the map work which is in your book. And if you have a problem of for solving any answer the questions, you for that you can download my CBSE app, that I have told you earlier, and I have also told you how to use that app. You have to log in as a teacher, not as a student. That also I have told you, and I'm saying you again, you have to log in as a teacher, not as a students. Then only you will be able to get all answer the question solved. So with that note, stay home, stay safe, and have a nice day ahead. Thank you for watching this video. I'll come up with the next video later on.